Alright, welcome everybody to another exciting episode of Language Zone. I'm your host, Mr. JB. Today what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at transitive and intransitive verbs. Most of my students ask me what is the difference between a transitive verb and an intransitive verb and what does it really mean. So today what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to analyze and really simplify what is a transitive verb and what is an intransitive verb. But first, what I'm going to do is I'm going to deal with the transitive verbs. Now here's the thing about transitive verbs. When I think of a transitive verb, I think of the word transition. And transition means change or movement from one place to the next. So when you think of transitive verb, think of transition and changing something, okay? Now, a verb can actually be transitive and intransitive at the same time. And most verbs are actually transitive and intransitive, okay? So these are the verbs that are really, really easy to think about. And if I were to come up with a list of transitive verbs, I can come up with a pretty big list. But the list of intransitive verbs would be a little bit smaller. Okay? Now, the textbook definition of a transitive verb is a verb that takes an object. Okay? Takes a direct object. So, for example, if I were going to say that I carried my bag, you would know that the direct object is bag. So, bag is the object of the verb carried. So, I carried my bag. So this bag is receiving the action of being carried. So you can imagine the bag is changing location, changing movement. So this is just like the word, like I said before, transition. So the bag is changing. So in this sentence, when you say I carried the bag, carried is being used as a transitive verb. Okay? Another example for a transitive verb is I watched television. But there's a test to figure out in a sentence if a verb is transitive or intransitive. All you have to do is directly after the verb, you would ask the question whom or what. So if you said I watched television, you would say I watched what? I watched television. Now we're going to take a look at some examples of intransitive verbs. Now, an intransitive verb is going to be a verb that does not have an object. There is no direct object in the sentence, okay? So it's very, very different from a transitive verb because a transitive verb actually has a direct object. So with this first example, Tom's grades improved with the help of a tutor. This means, when you look at it, that there is no direct object in the sentence, but the verb is receiving a little bit of information with the help of a tutor, but this is only answering the question how, okay? And with most intransitive verbs, any information that follows will either be a prepositional phrase or an adverb describing it. So Tom's grades improved what? Doesn't tell you at all. Okay, so in this sentence, the verb improved is intransitive. Okay, so for the next example, the child cried loudly. We can use a test again. The child cried what? It's not going to answer. You don't have any direct object in the sentence. You just have loudly, and this is just telling you how the child cried. The next example, the mother sang to her children. The mother sang what? No direct object. But there is a prepositional phrase. This is not a direct object. To her children. And this is how we actually receive the information for this one. In the next example, these are going to be some sentences, some verbs that are transitive and intransitive. And as I told you at the beginning, many verbs are actually transitive and intransitive at the same time. First sentence, John studies English. Very, very easy. You can ask yourself, John studies what? John studies English. Now this is the same verb coming up now. John studies hard. John studies what? No direct object. So John studies hard. It is an intransitive verb. It's the verb in the intransitive form because there is no direct object, only telling you how he studied hard. And you remember the example from before. So we have now a little bit of a different sentence. The mother sang the song to her children. So if you say the mother sang the song to her children, sang what? Sang the song. And the same sentence from before, the mother sang to her children, there is no direct object, and this is the verb in the intransitive form. Now what we've covered today has been transitive and intransitive verbs. I hope that it was very clear, and I'll see you next time in the zone. Bye-bye.